Recording the evening of September 20th. Laundry's still out upstairs at the Airbnb upstairs. The linen is still drying. Pretty dry by now, I would think. It's literally been a week. I made the decision a few days ago and announced it stupidly that I was going to try and do a video every day this month. And today I have nothing to talk about because I didn't finish reading any new books. Um, Poor me, picked out one to read, then fell asleep for a little while. I'm long suffering here in retirement that I get to sleep during the day. Um, it's gorgeous outside, incredible. I'm leaving here soon, so I'll talk about some. I'll just update some life things. Uh, I'm leaving Duras at the end of this month. In October through November 8th, I'll be in Madrid. That's going to be nice. I really like that city. I would live there if I could. It's kind of hard to figure out the. It's kind of hard to. It's not impossible to get like a long-term visa or a temporary residence visa or something like that. There, other people might have resources that would make it easier for them than it would be for me. I mean, you can kind of do it. If you can prove you have enough savings to live yourself there, you can get a 1 year visa. But you also have to have an address, a local address, and that kind of thing. So you'd have to get an apartment first. But to get an apartment, you kind of have to have a visa. It's there's problems. It's not the easiest thing in the world. There are parts of the world that are easier to get residency in. I'm headed that way. In November, I'm going on November 8th to November 24th. I'm going to be on a transatlantic cruise. I'm taking what they call a repositioning cruise. A cruise that's going to leave from Barcelona and go all the way to Uruguay, to Montevideo, Uruguay. Can't speak today. Not that I usually can. Sometimes I watch these back and I go, oh my God, your enunciation is terrible. That's one of the reasons I want to get a microphone soon. Because not that people have complained about the audio in these videos. I don't know why they wouldn't complain, but it's just for my own satisfaction. I want to be able to speak more clearly and more efficiently, and somehow I've convinced myself a microphone is going to help with that, and maybe I can do some more outside videos in terms of walk and talks and things like that. I've watched a lot of great videos this week. I had the honor of being on the weekly chat with Mark from Book Time with Elvis and Randy Ray, the literate Texan. Were very nice to have me on their show the other day, and I think it went well. They seem to think it went well. I certainly had fun. It is fun to be on with other booktubers. I think I've got another one lined up for later in the month, but I don't know. I don't want to speak about that in case it doesn't happen. But it is one of the most fun things about booktubers interacting with other people. I hope that one goal I want for my channel, I didn't get a chance to talk about this, is I'd like to have enough of a presence where I could do some live events myself, host some. I wouldn't want to do that now because it's not going to be announced. It's not going to go out to enough people that there'd be an audience. But it is one of the things I enjoy on BookTube, watching other people with their live events. And I thought about doing, what are we at, 4 minutes? I've thought about a couple of times doing just a live event, just popping up and just doing like a live writing event where I'll turn the camera on, start recording, and start typing. I've seen a few things that other people have done, that kind of thing, where you work kind of co-working events. I don't know if anybody would have any interest in that. Something I'm thinking about it, more or less just practicing the art of live events, I guess. So again, I want to thank both those guys who are way more advanced and knowledgeable than me in this whole space. It was terrific to kind of exchange ideas with them and just be in the same space with them for a little bit. that was kind of the highlight of my week, other than reading Poul Anderson. I've talked about a lot. I'm just still so thrilled that I discovered Poul Anderson for myself at this late stage. I looked over a bunch of other stuff I'm planning to read. I've got one more thing to do for Shakespeare, Shaketober. I always call it Shaketober, which you could do. You could do a 2 month event, Shakespeare in September and Shakespeare in October. They still both work together. Shakevember, I guess. You could just keep doing it. There's 36 plays you can do for 3 years. Shakevember, Shakecember, Shakuary. That could be favorite. Well, okay. Let's see. So I did that. I watch any movies? I talked about movies last time I did a wrap up as something to do. Oh, okay. I last time I talked about this actress Jenny Seagrove, who was in the last Poirot movie, Appointment with Death, 1988, canon film. In 1990, 2 years later, she did this film called The Guardian, a horror film. It looked, I mean, it got bad reviews, but it looked really cool to me. The premise of a mysterious nanny who is hired by new parents to care for their infant son. Then they soon discover the nanny to be a hamadryad, which means she's the spirit of a tree, and she wants to. She's going to raise the tree. She's going to raise the child to take it into the tree, which sounds pretty good. Pretty good, sleazy kind of horror. Directed by William Friedkin, who directed a little movie called The Exorcist and Sorcerer. Two of the great late '70s movies. But this movie was terrible. Oh my god, this movie is so bad. This is really one of the stupidest movies I've ever seen. It's got Julie Louis-Dreyfus's husband in it. That guy Brad Hall is like the best friend of the family, and there's probably about a third of the running time of this movie is taken up by the evil nanny Jenny Seagrove trying to kill Brad Hall in Brad Hall's house. A side character you don't care about. You're just waiting for him to die because he's such a doofus. Then they go back to the other part of the story. A very strange movie. Something bad happened during the making of this movie. I don't know if they lost footage or maybe William Friedkin was hired very late. It's almost all ADR'd. It's almost all post dubbed, like they lost the soundtrack or something, or they didn't bother to record sound. It's got the most ridiculous trees, like animatronic tree scenes where Jenny Hargrove is out in the woods, and of course some wood toughs, some gang guys who are just also out in the woods for no reason, decide to harass her and do terrible things. But the tree helps her out, and these picture people just moving these tree branches in to stab at the off-screen crew members to move the tree limbs around to make it look like the tree is coming. It's terrible. It is. I guess it was fun enough to watch, but so that kind of ended my. That's The Guardian 1990. That pretty much ended my movie watching for the week and for the month, because I started to get into movies again for a bit after I watched a couple Shakespeare movies that I talked about last time. So this coming week, I still haven't started any of the Robert Howard stuff officially. I did do Conan the Rebel by Poul Anderson, but the Sumerian September stuff I want to do, Skullface and Solomon Kane. I've got plenty of time to do them because there's still 10 more days. And there's another Shakespeare book, so that'll cover me for those events. I kind of dropped out on Shorty September, and I just mentioned as I read short books. There are a few recommendations I got from other people who are doing Shorty September unofficially. I think everybody's doing it unofficially. I don't really know any of the people really involved with it. What else happened? I did a couple of tag videos, or I did one, I think, book chat with Pat's tag. I was tagged by Gavin at Genre Books. That was a pretty successful tag. I think it went really well. It's a fascinating one about mirrors and frames, windows mirrors and windows, mirrors and frames. I think that I'll link back to, or just go back on my history and see my video from the other day on that. I also did a tag on Micah's tag, an older tag about ebooks, which I was like happy that some of the people who'd done it before did not mind being retagged and are doing new versions of it, and those are great to watch. So I enjoyed watching people's tags about their ebooks. In retrospect, I should have tagged more people when I did that ebook tag. Uh, and I realized as I watch people, I don't really notice that much whether they're reading on ebooks or physical books. Many people, of course, hold up their book, but other people will just people with halfway decent editing skills will superimpose the cover when they're talking. So I'm not really sure if they're talking about a print book or an ebook. And so maybe a lot more people are doing reading ebooks than I think. So I encourage you to look at those tags as they come out. I'll try and share them when I find them. I guess that's it for the week. So, so I'm going to go Albania, leaving here on October 2nd. Madrid, leaving there and going to Barcelona on November 8th. Barcelona, getting on the ship, going to Uruguay, which I'll arrive on the 24th. There's a couple of stops on the way, but most of that month I think I'll be out of internet contact, which I'm kind of looking forward to, frankly, because of the world situation. I think I'm a little bit oversaturated with media right now. And on those cruise ships, they charge exorbitant rates to have Wi-Fi, like $20 a day or something. Multiply that by 300 by 15 days, it'd be $300. I'm not going to pay that. So I probably won't have much contact, except on there are excursions and things. We're going to stop in the boat. I mean the ship, as people call it. Stops in Morocco. The Canary Islands, and then it doesn't have many stops. I'll say why in a minute. Then it's going to stop 2 places in Brazil, and then the final stop is in Uruguay. It's what's called a repositioning cruise. People who have never looked into cruises probably don't know what that means, which is at the end of the season they take the boat, or as people who know what they're talking about say, the ship, the cruise line, the floating hotel, the giant seagoing Disneyland, and they take it from where it's ending or beginning one season to where it's going to be for the rest of the year. So it's what's the name of the cruise line? Can't remember. Don't want to mention it because then people just tell me what a terrible cruise line it is, or whatever. Because if you start looking into cruises on YouTube, you know that it's a big ass subject that people are serious about. I've never been on a cruise. Don't really want to go on it now, really, but it's non-refundable, so I'm going to do it. I don't know how it's going to work out. It is solo cruising, which is a whole different thing. I've always just wanted to be out one time in my life, to be out in the middle of the ocean where there's no land around. Seems kind of a weird goal, but I've always wanted to take a cruise, sail across the Atlantic Ocean from one continent to another. So, and it's one of the things still on my bucket list that I still kind of wanted to do. But now when I think about being on a crowded ship with 5,000 people and, for 2 weeks, like, what were you thinking? You're eating at some crappy buffet. But hopefully there's going to be a walking deck. I think there is. I'm probably not the cruise type person. I'll have to get some shirts that are a different color for one thing, but I shouldn't talk it down because that's just my nature to think about things like that. I'm sure I'll have a fun enough time, and then I'll be over there in South America, a new continent that I've never visited, which is exciting to me. It's someplace I've wanted to go for a while. My Spanish is not getting any better. Uh, Over this past year, it's not improved at all. I don't think I can get any better than where I'm at, unless I am someplace where I can speak it. Um, I can read it pretty well. I can definitely read enough to get along in life. I can't read every work of fiction, but I can definitely read newspapers and things like that. I can. A tip for language learners out there: if you're a BookTube enjoyer, if you're a watcher of BookTube, and you're interested in learning some language, definitely seek out channels in that language, booktubers in that language. I mean, a lot of booktubers, even if English is not the language they use in everyday life, they still speak in English on their channel to get the wider reach. And then there's this horrible auto dubbing shit that's going on now. It's just terrible. Maybe you've seen it. What on BookTube, where you'll click on a video and it'll come up and it's clearly auto dubbed by some robot AI voice, and you have to go in manually and turn that off. I would love if BookTube needs a setting, a global setting for turning off auto dubbing. It's horrible. So I'll find a channel that's clearly a Spanish speaker channel. Click on it and you'll hear this robot voice, and then I have to go in and find the go into the settings and manually turn off the auto dubbing again. I know this is kind of a niche issue, especially since this is not a language learning channel. But what I have found as a lover of BookTube and a lover of watching other BookTubers is there's a lot of really good Spanish ones. And the way I do it is I look for subjects I like. I look for Spanish YouTubers, Spanish language YouTubers, I should say, although a lot of them are in Spain. There's two I follow. I follow them on a different profile than my regular YouTube profile, uh, because I've got another profile that this was a tip that someone gave me, that set up a separate YouTube profile, and on that profile, just don't open anything that's in English ever. Don't ever watch anything in English. Just watch the the videos by creators in your target language, and then it'll suggest more and more. So I do that. There's a couple from Spain. There's one from Argentina that I like. Spanish accents and Argentine accents are pretty clear, pretty. I don't know what to say, formal or whatever, but the accents are easier to understand for non-native speakers, I believe, and I look for the ones that talk about the subjects I like the ones who talk about science fiction and fantasy and mysteries, and very often they'll be talking about the same authors we talk about in English, especially with science fiction. The classic authors they talk about all the time, the same ones we talk about on the channels I watch. So that really gives me an anchor into the language. If someone's talking about they've got their big stack of Robert Silverberg novels, for example, and they're reading them in Spanish, and they've got the Spanish editions, but you can kind of, as you're watching, you can kind of work out what the title is, what the Spanish translation is of the book. Isaac Asimov is another one. I watched a guy do his Isaac Asimov books, and being familiar with the genres they're talking about, being familiar with the authors they're talking about, and same kind of subject matters, very often the same terms. I guess what would I call it? The YouTube slang that is kind of universal, like tags and spoiler words, like tags, spoiler. They're kind of universal. They use the English word in in their own language, just carried over. Um, and they have different events, sometimes similar kind of events that we do, and they in English, and it is a lot of fun to watch. It's like kind of a whole different perspective on the same thing that we all love. So if you're studying a language like probably like French or Japanese or German, very popular language that's widely spoken, that where there's a lot of YouTube content creators, it's I think it's a fun way to pick up some comprehensible input, as they call it, stuff you can understand in the language you're reading. Did I talk? Were there any books I didn't talk about? Probably not, because I was really hungry for content this week. But well, I read a book, How to Be a Tutor, High Percent to Touch. Yeah, I talked about all those. All right, so I guess I'll leave it there. Um, I guess I'm not leaving it there. I feel like I got off track. There was something else I wanted to say about cruises. It's like, oh, I know what it was. It's not the worst way to do it, because it's going to take, for me, it was a little pricier than what I spend on my in my normal day to day life. Um, but when I figure out, 2 weeks on a cruise will mean for me inclusive accommodation, food, and transportation, because I wanted to go to South America anyway, and I don't need a return ticket. I'm just going because it's the next path of my travels. So that right there would have cost me. I probably could get a hotel. I probably could get half a month in an Airbnb at the prices I pay, kind of probably around $400 or $500. And the food, I don't know, the food 20 a day. Let's say 20 times 15, 300. So that's $800. And then a flight from someplace in Europe or in Albania to South America, probably another $600 or $800. So when you count all that in, the actual addition of the cost of the cruise is not that much more. Since I was going that way, if you're doing a repositioning cruise, and they are cheaper than normal cruises because they give money off. They used to give a lot more off because they're taking the boat there. The actual goal is not to have a cruise, but the actual goal is to move the ship into position for the next season, or put it out for the winter. So it's kind of they're going that way anyway, so it's a little bit cheaper. Um, so it'll be an experience. It'll be over. I might spend the whole time in my cabin. Who knows? Just whole time in my cabin doing videos and storing them to upload later when I get back. Who knows? I've got a couple big books I've picked out for the cruise that I want to do. I've got a couple options. Um, One is, and it depends on how things go in October. I'd like to do at least one Victorian novel in October for Victober. Haven't really decided what. I always go on the fence on this, whether I should read some more Dickens and then finish off with Dickens, which I've read probably about 7 or 8 of his novels, and so that leaves me another 6 or 7. Probably the last big one to read for me, one of the last great ones, I guess, or 2 of them, would be Tale of Two Cities, and most importantly, Bleak House. I think is the most major book. The others haven't read are like Dombey and Son and Old Curiosity Shop, and those that are not as well known as Oliver Twist and David Copperfield, Great Expectations. Those have all read. Or to start on Trollope, which I really am deficient in. And I've got the Galsworthy, the Forsyth Saga, to read still. It's been on my TBR for a long time. And what I think I might do on the ship is read The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, and I have an edition of the Magic Mountain and Dr. Faustus, neither of which I've read. So that might be a good project for the 2 weeks on board the ship to read the Magic Mountain, particularly having read what it's about. Uh, Kind of an introspective novel about a guy who's being an introspective guy. So that might be a good time to do it. I'll be on the Magic Sea reading The Magic Mountain. Who knows? We'll find out. To be continued. Thanks for listening.